Namaskar, everyone. Welcome. I am Ravi Gupta. I am editor-in-chief of a magazine called e-governance, eGov, and also a magazine called eHealth. And we have been publishing these magazines for last 17 years. And the topic and discussion of today's webinar is around these two issues, one on health and another on governance. And today, our guest with us is Her Excellency Ms. Dana Kursh, and she is the Consul General of Israel to South India. Welcome, Dana. Thanks for joining us today. Namaskar.
Shalom, namaskar, namaste. Thank you for enabling me to be here.
Thank you. And let me introduce our speaker of the day. Her Excellency Ms. Dana Kursh is the Consul General of Israel to South India since August 2017, after serving 2 years as Deputy Ambassador of Israel to India in New Delhi. Ms. Kursh has a vast experience as a diplomat in the Israeli Foreign Ministry, where her key positions included policy advisor to the Director General and Director of the Department for Training of the next generation of diplomats. And today's topic is relevant in the times of COVID. The topic is combating COVID-19 pandemic together and the way forward. How Israel and India can collaborate on working on dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. So I am going to request Dana to please talk about the COVID-19 situation and how it has been handled in your country, and where all you see the opportunities for collaboration for COVID-19 and also overall healthcare and other areas of partnerships between India and Israel. Welcome, Dana. Thanks for joining us. Dana.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a wonderful way and opportunity to interact. We live in a new era and we have to do it virtually. But India and Israel partnership is a lot about the personal relationship and meeting and even hugging face to face. But now we have to resolve to this webinar and to the Namaste, Namaskara position with no handshake until this era will pass. And I'm so happy that we are able to brainstorm together on what is Israel and India doing together in order to combat this challenge. And if it's okay for you and the viewers, I would love to share a presentation that will be able to shed some light about our partnership and the way forward.
Sure.
Let me just share the screen, please. And we will go to our presentation. Okay, so I'll try basically to answer those two questions. How is Israel combating? And even more importantly, how does India and Israel together are able to join forces and combat this crisis and this pandemic together? And at the end of the day, what the thread that you will go through, which is basically the essence of our partnership, is innovation. Both India and Israel has to innovate together in order to find ways to combat this challenge and to identify the opportunities that lies ahead to the ongoing of our partnership. So that is the essence. And innovation has to have partners. It can't be only living in silos, what's happening in Israel and what's happening in India. We have to compare notes and share best practices and to be able to tackle this challenge together. So I promise you that I'll cover two questions. One is what is happening in Israel, and the second is what are we doing together. But I have to start with this picture because it says it all. Only 7 days ago from today, our two prime ministers had another call. It wasn't the first since this crisis erupted, and it was another call to to brainstorm together what can be done more. And you can see that the essence is how do we partner in the health sphere, but we are not neglecting the partnership that we had a second before February or March, or where it's everything evolved in our nations, and we have to go. Once we go back on track or to a new normalcy, we'll continue on exploring, as we are doing now, the other avenues. The first thing that I have to share before, I don't know, I imagine that the different viewers have different knowledge about Israel and about India and Israel partnership, and we don't have time to dive into that. I just share the important information is, although we are very good partners, Israelis have to be very modest because we are very tiny compared to India. India, the size, you have to multiply Israel 158 times to be exact in order to cover all the area of India. And if you look just at the size-wise, since I can call Bangalore, Nama Bangalore, because I live here for the past 2 years and I live in India over the past 5 years. Even within my city here that become my home in the past 3 years, the stats shows that there are only 9 million, but people know that we have even more in Bangalore. We have 15 million roughly, and in Israel we only have 9 million. And the square kilometers, you see the stats. But as I mentioned, the secret ingredient is innovation, and that's what connects us. And I live here. I'm privileged to live in basically the Silicon Valley of India, in an innovative hub that I see how Bangalore itself, Karnataka at large, and all over India, you are utilizing innovation to combat this crisis, and we are doing the same in Israel. So I have to brag for a few seconds about my own home country, and Forbes magazine chose to rate Israel as number 3 among the 100 countries that are COVID-19 safety. So, and the situation in Israel is improving due to utilizing a lot of our innovation solution in order to overcome this pandemic. As I mentioned, basically, I'm living here in an innovation hub, and Israel, although it's tiny, it has it's a mirror reflection of the innovation hub here, and that is the formula that helps us counter this crisis. You have to have the right ecosystem to create this innovation hub, and it relies on 3 pillars: on the academia, business, and government. In the same way, I belong to Hebrew University back home. We have the Technion. If I'm looking here in Bangalore itself, IISc is the equivalent of the Technion, and the academia is an important vehicle to find to utilize the researchers and the brain in order to find solution. The business is the engine and you have here in Bangalore and all over India amazing players that are playing a crucial role to help India overcome the situation. And India and Israel has the different stakeholders playing in their own scenes and jointly. And of course, at the end of the day, it's a government-to-government effort. And for me, it's a privilege as an Israeli diplomat representing Israel to be able to partner with the governments down south, where I covered the area of Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Pondicherry, and of course with our embassy in Delhi and our other consulate in Mumbai, together to brainstorm with the different government officials to find ways to counter this challenge together. We are now in a situation that if you look at the curve in India is unfortunately the spike. Every day we have a new spike and a new scary reality. In Israel, we started a bit before to close everything in order to find the solutions. But we also did open up a few weeks back. And unfortunately, we are now experiencing, in a way, a second wave. So that's the diagram that you can see here. When it comes to numbers, and before I'm sharing the numbers, we have to bear in mind again the minor difference between the 9 million Israelis and 1.3 billion Indians. This is where we stand today in the matter of COVID-19 cases, and unfortunately, people who lost their lives, and thank God, people who had recovered. And our goal together in this session and beyond is to think how are we minimizing those numbers and maximizing the recovered numbers at least, and basically finding a way to eradicate the situation from Earth. I'll share with you a bit of how it's going on in Israel, and as I mentioned, the essence is innovation. And what happened is we utilize all our brains and our psyche and our leadership skills and our passion to find creative solutions to overcome the current situation. And I'm sharing with you here just 4 examples of innovation. I'll start from the left, from my left to the right. The first one is Cockpit. It's basically a patient dashboard that Soroka Hospital down south in Israel is utilizing. And this dashboard is basically taken from the military, from the defense technology, and transformed into the medical sphere. And this is how you innovatively find new solution. You adapt, you have to keep being agile and utilize your forces and channel them the best way. And so this is one example. A second example is this AI solution. And behind it is one of our most upcoming bright minds. It's a doctor by the name of Kira Dinsky, a very young, brilliant researcher that basically our health ministry adopted her solution and utilizing that in order to assess the situation in Israel now. The third is a medical mask, a mask that the medical team can use. And you see here the players that joined hand here is basically our ISC, our Technion, our best leading science and technology university, uniting forces with Haifa University, Haifa Hospital, Rambam Hospital, in order to find a way that the mask will not interfere while treating the patients. And basically, again, it's also been inspired by some of the defense industry, but it really is brainstorming together what can be done. And the last that can be one of the solution if we're looking on the way forward, and we are looking forward to having the sky open again and be able to go back and forth from Israel to India freely. This instant corona tester is basically you can breathe easily, and then within seconds it can identify if you have the corona, yes or no. So this is another solution, and this is from a it's been developed in a university down south, the same area that is south in Bengaluru. Now in south of Israel there is Be'er Sheva, which is basically the cyber hub of Israel, and also in their university, in the university, they had developed this thing. So this is a nutshell, 4 examples of what's happening in the innovative ecosystem back home. And I know that back to back you can find ISC had only just yesterday announced another testing solution that they had discovered, and you can see a mirror reflection of what's happening in the innovative ecosystem here in India. So I have to make the transition to what are we doing now and what can be done in the future in order to utilize innovation in the best way to let us triumph this challenge, and let us identify more opportunities to solve other challenges that we have for the future, to have the next generation of both Israelis and Indians experience a world, a healthy one and safe one, and using the innovation in order to have a better quality of life for all. So now I want to basically, the essence, as I mentioned, is health. But if you look, our two leaders had identify also the strength, the path forward. And if I'm looking, basically, here you see 9 verticals of our partnerships. And the first 3 are very well known in our if you ask an Indian in the street or an Israeli, they will easily say, oh, there was some partnership even in Kargil war when it comes to defense. In agri, our drip irrigation solutions are so widespread here. And back home, there's a lot of back and forth when it comes to exchanging best practices when it comes to agricultural solutions. And the next strategic partnership that our two prime ministers identified when for the first time in Israel history, an Indian prime minister came to visit only like in July 2017. Water was put as the next big thing, and we are doing a lot in that. And the fourth thing is health. The rest is well known as well, but we can't dive into that. If I'll just highlight health for a second, I want to give you a picture of the before and after. You are all very much familiar with the Ayushman Bharat scheme that before March was discussed heavily in the news here. There was a delegation, if I'm not mistaken, in February that had of the leadership of this scheme went to Israel, and you see here a picture of the leaders from India meeting our health ministry leaders, brainstorming together of what can be done in order to exchange best practices. Israel, with its 9 million people, everybody has health insurance, basically coordinated by the government, but we don't have time to dive into that. If there will be questions from the difference afterwards, I'll happily. During COVID-19 and the way, if I'm looking on the way forward, this is only one example. An Israeli tiny startup called Zebra Technologies, providing an AI solution that before the COVID-19 had already built partnership with Apollo, identifying a solution and even getting a grant from there is a $40 million grant called I4F, Israel-India Fund for Innovation, that both Apollo Hospital and Zebra got some funding for that to develop things together. And nowadays, they are leveraging that and finding solution to tackle the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, if I'm looking at what is happening now, even like we are now experiencing one of the webinars, if I just share with you the next slide of what happened yesterday, what happened this morning, what is happening now, and what is happening in the next few days, it's just a snapshot. Yesterday, I was able to take part in an initiative of the Consul has 2 important partners. One is Accenture, and the other one is NASCOM, that together we signed an MOU 2 years ago in May 2018. Basically, we in the midst of our celebration of 70 to the State of Israel. And this was basically an initiative to create a accelerator to scale up companies. And this yesterday, the webinar that they had conducted yesterday was basically enabling a B2B interaction in our virtual world and matching big companies that are operating here, except Accenture, like Target, and also pitching by Israeli startups and finding the best match. And this was done only yesterday. This morning, our team in Mumbai had done a webinar on fintech, basically pitching some fintech companies and how they can customize themselves to the challenges that we are facing now in the COVID era, but beyond. And if there is interest in the people who are joining us today, if you are able, please join us tomorrow. We will put a spot on our solar industry partnership. And of course, we can't neglect Agri that we have on the 24th of June. And on the 23rd of June, a day before, we will have some discussion on water challenges that once we are back on track to a new normalcy, we have to go back to tackle this challenges and opportunity that lies in this respect. I want, this is the one slide before the end, and I want us to look at this. Just like 3 months ago, we lived in a different reality that we can easily go back and forth and visit Israel, and you see how many options now we have for connection between Israel and India. While we are keeping our fingers crossed that the reality and the normalcy will come back quickly and we will be able to not just meet virtually, but meet in person, I think that I want us to keep on protecting ourselves. And you see here 2 apps, the Israeli Hamagen, which is the shield that's protecting Israelis and helping people track back home. And here we have, I think that's more than 115 million people that already download the app in order to help the government protect one and all. This is the last slide. Well, I'm thanking each and every one of us, of the people who are viewing us. And mainly, you see here in the right side in Hebrew and in the left side, both in English and in Hindi, please, the most important 3 rules that we are all have to obey in order to be able to protect ourselves and our communities and our citizen is please wear this mask. Now I'm in this room by myself, so I can take it that you'll be able to hear me clearly. But please use a mask wherever you are with people. Keep social distances. That's why we are now on the web in the virtual sphere. And please keep generally your health, and for that also use sanitizer and make sure that you are helping your own families, your teams, your colleagues, keeping safe. And the best way to do it is by also showing yourself as a model for others. So with that, I'm thanking you, Dr. Ravi Gupta, and Mr. Mishra for opening this opportunity for us to keep on our partnership between India and Israel alive and kicking despite COVID-19. And I'm looking forward to hear questions from the viewers and from yourself, Dr. Gupta, and to keep on brainstorming together of how we can utilize innovation to enable India and Israel combat both COVID-19 and the other challenges that lies ahead. Thank you.
Sure. Great presentation, Dana. Thanks for this. I think your presentation has given an overview of the existing COVID-19 situation in India and Israel, and also what are the opportunities and where all India and Israel are looking at partnership. My specific question to you is that I had heard you in our Smart City conference in Bangalore. You were our keynote speaker there, and which Elets had organized along with the Karnataka government. And you had highlighted the innovation ecosystem in your country, in Israel. And you have mentioned the size of Israel as around the size of the Bangalore in terms of population. And the innovation ecosystem of Israel is world famous. We all have been knowing about it. So for the benefit of our viewers, like we have to tackle COVID-19, there is only one way, which is innovation. So if you can talk about the innovation ecosystem, innovation culture of Israel, how it started, why it started, and how it has got nurtured. If you can talk about it, like it will really help our audience. Yeah, Dana.
Thank you for a wonderful question. That although I've been asked many times, um, first of all, for an Israeli diplomat to be able to brag about Israel and our innovation startup nation, it's a wonderful opportunity. But I think that after being able to be here for 5 years in India, I see the same ingredients, and basically it's three things that you need. You need necessity. The need of the hour now is to tackle the COVID-19 pandemic. But once we go back on track, the need of the hour is how we can find water accessible and in good quality to each and every one of us all over the globe, for example, and in other fields as well. As you are rightly mentioning, we met the first time in the smart cities solution. Of course, there's a lot of things that we have to tackle, and there's a lot of needs and necessities when it comes to that. So the necessity, Israel and India share the same similar necessities and similar challenges that we have to tackle. The second thing is basically our culture. And here I find many things that are in common, including a few differences. And when it comes to culture, at the end of the day, there is one word in Hebrew that says it all, and it's called chutzpah. Chutzpah is basically in between assertiveness and aggressiveness. The fact that we are very, very bold and we are not afraid from anything and we are willing to tackle any problem and to dive in. The same way in this, as I shared with you the four innovation in Israel that are trying, people easily say, okay, there's a problem in hospitals, how are we creating a dashboard for the doctors that will be able to monitor the patient? They took some dashboard from the battlefield and adopted to that. And this is with no fear. And I see the same boldness here. The only two differences I can see between Israelis and Indians in some ways is that our boldness comes with not being afraid from hierarchy. At the beginning, before we spoke, you asked me how to call me. And you said, okay, you are Her Excellency Dana Kursh, the Consul General of Israel to South India. And although I've been for the past 3 years used to this title, in Israel, I'm just Dana. In the same way, here I prefer to be called Dana and to be able to call you Ravi, because that's the way we don't hit these formalities. So I was a captain in the army many, many years ago in the Israeli Defense Force, and I was only a captain, but I knew that I will be able to even challenge our chief of staff and tell him that he is wrong, because there's no fear. We are very bold from hierarchy. And in India, I think that there is a bit of a gap here. So this is one of the two things that I mentioned, that there are some differences. So one is hierarchy. The second of which is in the same spirit of chutzpah, of this boldness, is that we are very, very direct. And in that, I'm a very, very bad diplomat, because when I'm not satisfied, people see it in my face, and I will say it very, very loud and clear. With no niceties. I can smile, but they will still know that, and I will say directly, no, that's not the way I want it, or yes, I would rather that it would be done that way. And unfortunately, when I'm trying to connect Israeli companies and Indian companies, and I'm speaking with businessmen in both our ecosystems, one of the barriers that in the Indian culture, I think, there is a lot of the connected party to the hospitality. You want, and the other, you want your partner to be happy, and you want to satisfy him. The best way to satisfy an Israeli is when you cannot do something, to say it openly, directly, and boldly. I can't do it. It's much better than to go around the bushes and say we can do it. So this is the two things that are a bit of the risk, but this is part of our psyche and our culture. you can add into the fact to those kind of culture the fact that most of us have been to the army, and it's creating the team. We work in teams, and we like to work in teams. So this is part of the spirit as well. But I think that's what, when it comes necessity, I spoke a bit about the culture. The third ingredient is leadership. And leadership, we have it in our government, in our leaders, our prime ministers. From the first prime minister of Israel, Prime Minister Ben Gurion, he said, "I will let the desert bloom." 60% of Israel is desert, and he said, when Israel was incepted 72 years ago, "I'll make it bloom." And he, from top down, nowadays we're in a reality that our desert, our 60% is blooming, and with accessibility to water. So you have to have, in order to an innovative ecosystem, you have to have leadership that pushes innovation. And I think that before there was invented even VCs and greenhouses that are basically nurturing startups, Israel was allocating funding to startups, and we are the first in the world of our GDP allocated for R&D. So this is when it comes to leadership. But as we all know, leadership is not only politicians, never mind from which side of the political spectrum they are. It's also the business leadership. It's also the academic leadership. And it's also the NGOs. And you see here in COVID-19, I see it here in Bangalore, I see it all over India, and I see it back home. How the different leaders from different sectors, from the private, from the government, and from the NGOs, are uniting forces and helping one another together to come out from this situation. So this is the formula of how we've done it in Israel, and this is the formula how I see it done here, and this is what will unite us for the future to do it together. Two innovative hubs that are uniting energies and resources in order to find solution for every challenge that may lie ahead.
Excellent. Great to hear about the way this innovation has been ingrained in the whole society. And as you talked about ability to ask questions, ability to take a stand, ability to go beyond hierarchy and actually look at getting things done. Those are very, very critical components. And there are some questions here, like people asking on the chat, that there are startups in India who are looking at collaborating with startups in Israel. So how do they do that? What is the procedure? So people asking about that.
Thank you. There are a few ways. First of all, there are amazing success stories that happen without any government interference. And in every of the 9 fields that I shared with you in one of the slides, there is partnership between Indian startups and Israeli startups, whether it's Upstream, an Israeli startup called Upstream that was purchased by Flipkart, or whether it's an Israeli big cybersecurity company that chose an Indian startup to purchase, to have a merger and acquisition with it in order to unite forces. When it comes to us, our team in the Consul, as you saw the different webinars that we are trying to create in order to connect Indian startups with Israeli startups and of course bigger companies as well. What we are doing is any startup who is here can connect our team in the consulate, and we'll try to find the perfect match back home. And any company can be not just a startup. And we are doing the same way back, the other way around. When we go back to normalcy, the best way is to come and visit in Israel, and we can help do the scouting for finding the match where you see and meet your peers back home. And the same way, we are doing roadshow of Israeli startups and Israeli companies coming here to interact with companies that are in India. When it comes to government, of course, we are doing the utmost to support and to help. And in this is where, as I mentioned, in July 2017, almost exactly 2 years ago, when Prime Minister Modi came to visit Israel, him and our Prime Minister launched I4F, Israel India Innovation Fund, 40 million, 20 million from each country, $20 million to help out startups. So Indian startups can address us and will help find the match, but basically it's coordinated by the S&T ministry in the federal level and mainly by GITA. And back home, it's backed by our innovation authority, Israel Innovation Authority. And we just had the 5th cycle of applying to this fund. The next cycle will be in August. So please contact us. We'll gladly share with you how we can find you the match, the Israeli match, in order to have success stories, exactly as the success stories I had shared with you between Apollo hospitals and this Israeli startup Zebra Technologies that are doing AI solution. And I think that, if I'm not mistaken, they got $500,000 to be able to unite efforts exactly from that I4F fund.
Excellent. So, Dana, we have a video on Israel given by your team. So let's play that, and then we take our next questions after that. So may I request our team to play the video?
And just
Coronavirus has affected each of our lives and the entire world. There are lockdowns across the entire planet, millions are sick, and many thousands have passed away. To fight this virus, researchers have decided to act towards finding solutions to prevent a second wave and to develop vaccines. During this pandemic, you may have heard a lot about antibodies, the immune system, and so on. But what are they exactly, and how do they help protect us against viruses?
Antibodies are the product of the immune system. They have the capacity to bind specifically pathogens, like such as bacteria and viruses, and basically clear them or eliminate them from our bodies. We go to recovered patients, and they produce antibodies, and we want to learn from them how to do that. Basically, we need the recipe for the antibody. The recipe, once we have it, we don't need any more patients, we don't need even immune cells. We can produce it here in the lab in an artificial way, and we can make large quantities of the antibody, and we can test it, we can study it. The goal is to make an antibody that will eventually end up in the market and can be used as drugs for protection or for curing patients. That's the dream, I would say. That is my dream.
As we all know, detecting coronavirus requires a test, but getting results back takes time. How can we make testing more efficient without sacrificing accuracy? The Hebrew University of Jerusalem may have the solution.
My lab, in regular times, we study a process of editing that happens on the RNA level. And since coronavirus is an RNA virus, we now have many tools that we can take advantage of. We can help the labs make more tests in less amount of time.
What a great hope for the future. A groundbreaking scientific development. The Israel Institute for Biological Research recently discovered an antibody that neutralizes COVID-19. This could lead to significant progress towards developing a treatment for those who have already contracted the virus. The Institute has also successfully completed its coronavirus vaccine experiments on rodents and will soon move on to testing it on other animals and then finally on humans. A vaccine may be complete within a year or even less. Ever imagined that shrimp could help save lives? Well, guess what? That is indeed possible.
5 years ago, we identified viral diseases as the next threat that animals may face. At that time, we didn't think of this threat that we're all facing here as humans. And what we did is we invented a technology, a feed, that boosts the immune system of animals and protects them against viral diseases. Can we now learn from them and adapt these technologies for protecting humans against coronavirus? So I believe Technion-based technologies can help us address these new challenges that humankind are facing.
The so-called Startup Nation is clearly dedicated to the global struggle against COVID-19. Many companies are devoted to this fight and are working around the clock to find solutions. Let me introduce you to ADOC, provider of AI solutions for radiologists. ADOC develops AI-based medical imaging software designed to quickly analyze medical scans, detect critical conditions, and predict possible complications. The technology is intended to help doctors prioritize the most urgent cases and expedite treatment.
We need to provide a solution for early identification of patients who are asymptomatic but still carry the virus and can spread it to others. Using our core technology, our ability to develop an AI algorithm to analyze automatically every study that contained the lung or just even part of the lung, and then provide notifications to the radiologist that that patient has unsuspected findings of COVID.
What about a vaccine against other strains of coronavirus? The Miguel Galilee Research Institute could be the first to find the vaccine against COVID-19 in humans. Ehud Shahar's team started developing a vaccine against the coronavirus strain affecting poultry years before the current pandemic broke out. MIGVAX, an affiliate of the Miguel Galilee Research Institute, is pioneering the effort to develop Israel's vaccine against COVID-19, the strain of coronavirus found in humans. Thanks to the research gathered for the exciting vaccine, it could be possible to develop a vaccine against COVID-19 in humans in just a few months. If you care, share.
Excellent. Yeah. Excellent video, Dana. Great to see this. Sorry, I switch on the video now. So, Dana, what this video showed was that the amount of research happening on the COVID-19 situation, and actually there are some questions here on our on our panel where some of the people are asking that like we are into healthcare research and how do we collaborate with Israeli organizations. So if you have any inputs on this and the overall video itself, Dana.
Yes. As I mentioned, the main vehicle that we offer is this I4F that basically has 4 verticals. It has agri, water, cybersecurity, and the 4th one is health. So we are prioritizing promoting this connection. So and there's a lot of things being done also with academic interaction. So some of the innovations there we're starting in the universities. And I know that we have, for example, in IIMB that they have their NSR cell. We have an Israel center at IIMB, for example, that is existing way before. It's like from November 2017 already, to be able to be a kind of host the connection. And the same way when it comes to health, there is a lot of partnership between IASC and our Weizmann institution, for example, that is doing a lot of technological and also other vehicles. So it can be either an Indian health company, whether it's small or big, that are trying to unite forces on a B2B level, and then we would love to be able to channel and help and facilitate, either by doing the scouting or by enabling them to go on the process of getting some funding from this I4F. That's one track. The second track is the academic, to be able to do the research together and to connect to the Israeli academic scene that is also trying to counter this issue as well. And the third aspect is, of course, we are uniting forces also by exchanging best practices, government to government, like the health ministry here with back home, how we tracing, how are we taking the population which are at risk, how are we isolating them, what kind of measurement can we exchange best practices of things that have been happening back home and here.
Sure. And someone has asked that is there an email ID where people can contact someone to who can guide on collaboration with the Israeli ecosystem. So if you can.
Yes. First of all, easily go into our either on Twitter or on Facebook or on we have a website of our consulate, and you can easily Israel at Bangalore, and you can easily get accessibility to us. An email we can share maybe after we'll easily share it. There's no point in telling it now. But another interesting vehicle is we have an NGO in Israel called Startup Nation Central. And what they've done, they developed an app or a platform called Finder. Basically, and it's accessible to everyone, whomever, and probably after this, I'll share also their link if needed. But basically, what they're doing is they aggregated all the startups in Israel with different sectors from the different verticals that exist, whether it's the automotive, EV, electric vehicle, or water solution, and so on and so forth. They, of course, have now a special vehicle of aggregating all the startups that are dealing with COVID-19 solutions, whether it's diagnostic, testing, vaccines, and so on and so forth. And you can easily go into that and basically learn about the ecosystem, Israeli ecosystem, and find your match until you'll be able, God willing, soon to go on a plane and visit our ecosystem back home yourself. So the Finder of Startup Nation Central and our website, and we are accessible to help you, help anyone who's interested to find his perfect match back home in Israel.
So the name of the app is Finder, is it?
Yes, it's basically maybe one of your colleagues that is they can put it there, and I can even show you how to operate on that. It's called Finder of a Startup Nation Central, and I can even now, if you want to show you or as we speak, I will send to Mr. Mishra the contact, the link to the Finder, and maybe if he'll be able to share it with all of us, that can be a way to share with you that, okay?
Sure.
1 second. But meanwhile, while I'm doing that, I'm willing to answer any more questions.
Sure. There is another question which is around tell us about how India-Israel collaboration and cooperation on joint investment in healthcare and leveraging technology to boost delivery of care.
Joint investment in
healthcare, like are there any investment proposals also going on? Someone has asked you.
Yes. There is even the Israeli ecosystem has basically like roughly around 500 VCs, and it's ranked very high. In like I was able to experience this arena before I joined the foreign ministry, and even when I joined the foreign ministry, I took 1 year leave of absence, and I joined one of our best leading VC called JVP, and basically the founder is being identified by Forbes magazine as having the Midas touch. Once he touches a startup, there is an acquisition, and it's getting a lot of funding. So we are trying to connect the VCs of India and the VCs ecosystem back home. As you all know, a lot of even the angels here and the VCs are very much, because they have such a big market, you are more focused within India and less outside. If there is some interaction, it's mainly with the States, as far as I know, and some with Singapore and Japan, and like the neighborhood here, less with Israel. And on our side, the mirror reflection is that also in Israelis, startups and Israeli VC industry is used to work with either the States or Europe, And what we are doing, the same way I'm an ambassador of Israel to India, I go back home and I'm pushing the different VCs, come and explore the opportunities that India market has for you. And we met a few of Israeli VCs that had been here to try to connect the dots. So I think that our crowd, which is one of the Israeli a channel of doing gathering money for VCs. He has some interaction with the ecosystem here, and I think that they also had something when it comes to health. But I don't remember the name of the company or the success story itself, so I will not be able to share with you now. Maybe we'll be able to share it with you afterwards on the social media.
Sure. There is a question by Mr. Rao here, and he's asking that are there any specific India-Israel joint grant for developing AI-based solutions for COVID-19 detection?
I think that in the first meeting, in the first conversation a few months back between our two prime ministers, they had identified basically, they had marked COVID-19 as the need of the hour. And after that, both the MEA here and the foreign ministry back home with both the health ministries had identified basically 50 areas for R&D when it comes to COVID-19. And I think that there is some money that is going to be announced for allocation in the near future, but it's still in the final stages of formalizing. For the time being, the I4F, the Israeli, this fund of 40 millions, is allocating fund for that. And as I mentioned, Indian startup can submit a request for them. The next call for proposals is until August. So it's time now to start finding your Israeli match and submit together in order to get this grant.
Sure. And there is a question that how can Israel help India in securing its food and water needs? What are the opportunities for bilateral investment and joint projects in these fields, food and water?
Food and water. Basically, our partnership is identified basically in a partnership of providing food safety. And for that, we have two legs, the agri and the water. You have to have water for any crop, and you want to have best crops ever in yield and in quality. And Israel and India are amazing partners when it comes to agriculture partnership and when it comes to water partnership. And all over India, we have almost 30 centers of excellence that basically Indians and Israelis are cultivating lands together. Only here in the south and in Karnataka itself, we have 3 centers of excellence, one in Kolar for mango, one in Bagalkot for pomegranates, and one in Dharwad for vegetables. But in 16 states all over India, we have those centers of excellence where Israelis and Indians are exchanging best practices and technologies of how we can have the best crops for minimum of drops of water. And those are the things. And of course, it's also the full chain, how to get the product from the field to the consumers and so on and so forth. There is a variety of partnership when it comes to agriculture and when it comes to having a fresh and good water accessible to every home in India and every home back home.
Sure. And another question is about that that the Indian government has a mission of Make in India. So how can Israel help this program of Make in India?
Yes, I think that every nation have this make in, either Make in India or and Israel we have a buy blue and white, buy Israeli products are. The color of the flag that you see behind me are blue and white. So there were different campaigns of how to buy blue and white. And the COVID-19 pandemic, I think that was a rude awakening for each country, each nations, of how do we rely more on ourselves and how are we manufacturing. And I hear India even more vocal now than even before the Make in India, so how to manufacture things back home, whether it's ventilators and so on and so forth, different medical equipment. And the partnership between what we say is our president, Rivlin, visited Israel when I was still deputy ambassador in Delhi. And where his speech was, it's not just make in India, it's make with India. Israel and India are making things together. And which means that I had the privilege of like a year and a half ago to inaugurate a JV between an Israeli company and an Indian company when it comes to security. Here in Bangalore, there is a factory when they are jointly developing and manufacturing together. And it's done in any field, whether it's the defense, cybersecurity, health, agri, water, space, and so on and so forth. We are able and willing and eager to make together in India and with India, because we live in a global world, and the only option is when good friends, and India and Israel are strategic good friends, we have to unite our forces and make things together for the better of our citizens and basically the better of the world.
Excellent answer, inputs, Dana. And there is a specific question about electric vehicles. Like the question is that how is the electric vehicle program going on in Israel to save environment? Are the people happy adopting electric vehicles?
The smart mobility and the electric vehicle had its ups and downs in Israel. First of all, nowadays it's a blooming ecosystem, and I think there are more than 200 startups that are only in the field of ecomotion. We had an amazing plan many years back of an Israeli startup company called Better Place that wanted to provide a battery to be able to enable all of us to stop using gas and enable us to do it on to have a EV. Failed. But in Israel, we because we're not afraid, we learn from our failure and we embrace our failure. And now it's a really thriving ecosystem. And I'll give you one current example. You all know Intel. Intel had bought a few months back, the global Intel, brought an Israeli company called Mobileye for $15 billion. When this, and you know, and Mobileye is basically not providing an electric vehicle, but providing a system that detects and enable you to reach a situation that one day we will not need a driver at all, because it sensors the proximity to other cars and so on and so forth. Even before the merger with Intel, Mobileye had done some projects both in Delhi and in other places of pilots of how to install this in public transportation in India. And a few months back, the head of Intel India, Ms. Nivruti Rai, visited Israel in December, and I had the privilege of accompanying her. And she had allocated time to explore the Israeli startup ecosystem, and she identified three things that she wanted to put the focus. One of them was finding AI solution when it comes to smart mobility. The other was, of course, health. So she was pitched by different companies when it comes to smart mobility solutions at large and EV solutions in specific. So I'm looking forward to COVID-19, to post-COVID-19 era, that we can go back and track and see how we are enjoying electric vehicles here and back home. I know that in many, many states, they're allocating a lot of funding. Karnataka has their plan. Other states down south and all over India are allocating funding to find ways to reach to reach this destination of enjoying EV and utilizing EV. I hope that once we are post COVID-19, we'll be able to join hands in this respect as well.
Sure. Excellent inputs, Dana. And there is another question about how are India and Israel collaborating in outer space in frontier technologies?
Yes. Being located in Bengaluru, where ISRO is around the corner, space is a very big and important arena of partnership between India and Israel. I think that our time is almost up, so I'll just share one aim for post-COVID-19 era. We launched a few months back. Israel and India are aiming to launch 50 satellites, mini satellites, into space when India is celebrating its 70th independence. So in 2022, the aim is to have a partnership between different academic institutions, ISRO and our equivalent, our ISRO, Israel Space Agency, and different universities, in order to enable teenagers in India and in Israel develop nanosatellites that will be launched from ISRO here to space in 2025. So I think that I'm looking forward to continue on the partnership, not just when it comes to our health, but also, of course, when it comes to reaching the sky.
Sure. And another question is around what are the opportunities in defense sector? You mentioned as defense is a very important area where Israel works.
So what are the different areas? What are the different verticals?
Collaborations, like collaboration opportunities between India and Israel in the defense sector. There is a question.
In the defense sector, okay.
Yeah.
The defense sector is very, very active in few levels. First of all, there is a DRDO partnership with the Israeli equivalent. So there is joint R&D when it comes to the military. And of course, there is when it comes to counterterrorism. And when it comes to the civil arena, cybersecurity plays a big is a big player, and there is a lot of R&D partnership and exchanging best practices when it comes to cybersecurity. Here in Bangalore itself, for example, there is one of the biggest Israeli cybersecurity companies called Checkpoint, that basically this company invented the firewalls, the first way to shield us in the cybersecurity space and to provide security in the cyberspace, has its biggest operation for all of India and for the entire Asia, operating from here from Bangalore. So the collaboration is in different ways. And if we had hours and hours to interact, I would have shared more opportunities of how we're collaborating when it comes to defense.
Great. And Dana, I want to ask you one question, which is, I think you have answered almost, yeah. So there is a question about tourism.
Yes.
So Israeli tourism to India had increased remarkably in last 2 decades, but today the scenario is different. Please share that how do you see the post-COVID scenario?
You are so right. We have post, during, and after. Before, during, and after. So if I'm just like trying to rewind to last year, we had, I think, that increased in almost 40% tourism in for both directions. People going back to Israel and people coming here, not just for tourism, also for business. But it really, I think that one of the catalysts, of course, was the visit of Prime Minister Modi to Israel, because seeing leadership come, others are following, and also the fact that Air India had opened direct flights from Delhi to Israel, and basically from here, Bangalore, you take a flight in normal time, you take a 45 minutes flight to Israel, you leave here at 10 o'clock, you are in Israel at 7:30 Israeli time in the same day, because there is a direct flight from Delhi to Israel that takes around 6 hours. So the curve was climbing up and up before we reached March, and when this pandemic was exposed in both our nations. And I'm looking forward for the day after. And I'm looking very proudly at what is happening in Israel and what is happening here. Even if I look at the Bangalore airport here and the way that they had reinvented themselves and utilized exactly the same way, utilized innovation to basically enable a passenger go into the airport with minimum access and minimum opportunity, minimal danger to himself and to others. It happened the same way back home. And in Israel, I have to brag for a second, we even have more progress. I can share with you that just yesterday, the leadership of Greece, the Prime Minister, and many other ministers came physically to Israel and done a G2G, a government-to-government dialogue, and basically declared that by the 1st of August, which means a month and a half roughly from now, the sky will be open between Israel and Greece. Between Israelis and Greek will be able to go back on track with tourism. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the challenges that both Israel and India are experiencing with this pandemic will be tackled as soon as possible, and the sky will be open again, and we can enjoy interacting and going back and forth and continue the curve of more and more tourists going from Israel to India and back and the other way around for extreme tourism, for sightseeing of holy sites, for checking one another innovative ecosystems, and for really having also leisure and fun, and of course business. So let's pray and hope for better days to come soon. And I think that the fact that Israel and India are partnering together now in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic will bring us closer and closer to the aftermath and to enjoying a back and forth flights soon.
Yeah, so I thought that was the last question, but one more question has come, and I think it is very important. So I'm asking you that how can Israel help on the Indian smart cities? Can you please share your views on opportunities for Israel-India cooperation in the field of smart cities?
Yes, and I'm grateful for when you elaborated about the question, you said the joint ventures, because I don't think that Israel can help India. As I'm going back to the size, Israel is tiny and India is big, but we experience the same ecosystems, innovative ecosystems, and that enables us to exchange best practices. And that's the way we're helping one another. And when it comes to smart cities, having smart mobility solutions, having solutions for water, how we have drinkable water at every home, how we have are we relying on solar energy, instead of fuel to heat our homes, to even bring water, to turn on the generators when we have the power cuts. All those kind of things are being part of the partnership, the existing partnership between India and Israel, and are going to be the next. We are going to go back on track in that post this era. It's management of water resources for cities, the connection to the periphery and to the agriculture areas, and in every field, whether from the big fields that I mentioned and in others, there is tons of potential and tons of opportunities happening on the ground, and a lot that we can do together in the future.
Sure. Excellent news, Dana. I think we have covered several areas. We discussed about COVID-19 and several other sectors, from water to agriculture to food to space to defense and to startups, of course. And lastly, Dana, I want to ask you that you have been in India for some time. It is different weather, different culture, different food. And how have you adjusted and to this new environment?
India is really incredible. India. I was able to enjoy both north by being 2 years in Delhi and 3 years here in Nama, Bengaluru. And so I love the northern dishes, northern cuisine, and I still miss the naan. But I also love the southern cuisine. I love anything that all the stews that the Kerala or the Malayalam or everything done with coconut milk. And I'm still adjusting to the spiciness. There will be moments that you will see me shedding tears of joy of the food, but also of being choking by the spices. But it's been an amazing 5-year journey of learning the taste, not just of the food, but of how much we are so much alike in the culture, in the way we celebrate holidays. You have your Diwali, your Festival of Lights. We have Hanukkah, our Festival of Lights. And for the past 3 years in Bangalore, I was able to celebrate with friends and partners here those two Festival of Lights together, and I think that India and Israel have amazing heritage and amazing future that lies ahead, and the vehicle is innovation. And both our nations are so wise in utilizing, being proud of our heritage, while utilizing innovation to reach new heights. And I'm looking forward to continue on pushing our partnership between India and Israel to additional new heights.
Excellent. Dana, I have seen you so much active in various conferences, including our conference of Smart City, which we organized in Bangalore. And I keep following you on the social media, and I'm amazed that almost every week you are at some or the other forum and you are actively participating and talking about India-Israel partnership. And Dana, your message to our team at Elets who are trying to spread the ideas of innovations and partnerships in this field of smart cities and also various other sectors in the field of innovation. So your message and suggestions to our team at Elets in the end, Dana.
I think that you know the drill. You are doing it, and you are basically practicing this what we all preach here. Because what you are doing is utilizing innovation and the social media in order to plant the seeds of the importance of innovation and the importance of partnership and the importance of technology to have a better future for all of us. And the same way I was experiencing you in the Smart Cities conference back then, I think that you are a very important vehicle to spread the message of the importance of innovation and the importance of leadership and the importance of partnership. And I'm grateful and thankful that you enabled me to share some of this wonderful partnership that exists between India and Israel when it comes to combating a COVID-19 pandemic, but way beyond. And I'm looking forward to continue this partnership with your organization.
Excellent. So with this, I thank Dana and all our viewers who are watching this on the social media. Thanks for great interaction here and great questions. And Dana, thanks for taking out time for your from your busy schedule for us. With this, we close this, and I will say namaskar to you, Dana, and the audience. Namaskar. Thank you.
Namaste, shalom. Thank you very much.
Shalom.
Keep safe and healthy.
Thank you. Thank you so much.